Hi, my name is Avery Mann, and today I'll be presenting my oral presentation for English 102 on security in cloud computing. So the basics of cloud computing are that the cloud is the internet, and cloud computing in turn is software and storage that run through the internet. This enables convenient on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources, things like networks, servers, storage, applications, and services. So some characteristics of cloud computing are that they have on-demand access. This means that it's accessible from any device and you're able to access the information quickly and easily. Also enables resource pooling and elasticity. What this means is that we can dial back or push forward the resources needed to make this work. Uh, what this does is it makes a very personalized service for the user. You're not paying for anything you need or anything you don't need, and you're not being handicapped by not having the resources that you need at the time. So there's three separate models of cloud computing. There's infrastructure as a service, and that gives users access to storage, networking, servers, and other computing resources via the cloud. There's also platform as a service, and this service layer is primarily geared towards developers and operations professionals. Service providers rent out cloud-based platforms for users to develop and deliver applications. And then finally, there's software as a service, which is the most well-known of the cloud service models. The software is hosted, packaged, and delivered by a third party through the internet, typically through like a browser-based interface. Something like Google Drive is an example of a software as a service cloud computing model. So, with all of these benefits, there's going to be security concerns that are problematic. So, things like data breaches, hijacking of accounts, malware injection, these are huge problems with cloud computing because of the availability of the information online. Uh, there's also problems with having like an insider threat messing because cloud computing models can be so broad. You have so many folks that have access to this information. There's much more of an opportunity for insiders to abuse the information that they have. So, in order to mitigate the security concerns, you ideally need to make sure that the employees are educated in what they should do to avoid any compromises for the cloud service. You also need to make sure you have a data backup plan because in the event that everything is compromised, you don't want to have to lose everything. So ideally, you'd have a hard backup of your data. Also want to minimize the sharing of resources. This goes back to the same thing that I was saying on the previous slide. There's a lot of people that have access to the information. You want to try to limit the amount of people who have access to this information. It's also a very, very key factor is two-factor authentication to make sure that using password crackers won't just give you access to this information. You want to make sure that you have to have a secondary device on hand to make sure it verifies who you are. But the biggest thing to mitigate the security concerns of cloud computing is private clouds. Private clouds, what essentially a private cloud is just a walled off, completely separate cloud from the internet. You can have a private cloud on a local access network rather than, like a normal access network, normal internet access network. Uh, what private clouds do is they increase the ability to handle large computing and storage demands. The on-demand services using self-service user interfaces and policy-based management, efficient resource allocation based on user needs, increased visibility into resources across the infrastructure, and it is much more secure. The fact that it is not on the internet means that nobody has access to hack into this information. So things like malware injection and denial of service attacks do not work on these private clouds. So, finally, while cloud computing offers an immense number of benefits over standard computing practices, it does not come without security risks. The availability of the information online is definitely a double-edged sword. Being easy to access for a user translates to it being easier to access for cyber attackers. With proper analysis of the risks versus reward over the current setup, users can likely find a cloud computing option that suits their needs. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Here's my references.